Alright, Pennsylvania Railroad specification, construction, and maintenance of the track, CE 78, M47, Pennsylvania 547 Harry, Pennsylvania Railroad specification, construction, maintenance of the track, and CE 78. Preface. Preface. The specification are published with the guidance of district engineer, supervisor, track foreman, track contractors, other building and repairing track. This may be made with the part of the contract. Such carry with the same force as any other specification. They are intended for the guide of the economical standard of the track construction maintenance and must be interpreted in light experience and requirements for service deviation from them only where the experience has indicated that such deviation is permissible without endangering safety of operation of the trains. Alright, index of subjects. Anchor rails, number of the required application, maintenance, ballast, use, specification, distribution, filing, cross-section, cleaning, crossing highway authority protection, forms, protection, maintenance, and conduct with work, crossing and turnouts, crossing, magnesium, bolted, heat-treated rail, bolted rail, installation, maintenance, and repairs, placing, turnouts, executive operation, frogs, use, magnesium, bolted, rigid, self-guarded, maintenance, and repairs, switches, standard length, maintenance, frog guards, rails, standard material type of use, length and gauge and settings, switch point, guardrails, approved type, derails, normal position, location types, operation position, indicated maintenance, gauge, standard and maintenance, gauge, guardrails on bridges retaining the walls and other structures, guardrails, joint rail, application of maintenance, installation of joints, track circuit territory, application care of joint, material handling of the care of the plates and ties, assignment and placement, rails, distribution, preparation, laying, track circuiting, rail bonds, care of material, road bed, drainage, spacing bars, bridge decks, spiking, number of required applications, switching operation, mechanism, type blocking, switch stands used, padlocks, position indicated with the switch points, typical types indicated to be used, switch stands used, location, switch point, position indicator, position, distance of the rail from switch stands and switch point indicators, maintenance ties, the bridges using pre-boring ties, the cross ties using placing, damaged ties, the switch uses, track construction, maintenance, speed limit signs, installation, track obstruction, descriptions, surface line standard requirements, working requirements, tamping, special attention, alignment, grades, establish district engineer, super elevations, spiral speeds on curves, maintenance, alignment, markers, new work, track centers, grade, compensation of the curves, vertical curves, track secondary yard sidings, construction, maintenance, wire, lining, safety, emergency duty, telegraph, telephone lines. Alright, roadbed. Drainage is the first important track maintenance. Water mixing with the material of the roadbed makes the entire structure unstable, varying to degrees depending on the kind of material, quantity of the water. Stability of the track requires the water seeping, flowing toward the track lead to intercept the diverted before it reaches the roadbed. The water flowing on the roadbed may quickly drain to the side of the dishes, presenting no flowing water, even at the elevation several feet below the subballast, affecting the stability of the track, both weakening cohesion of the material and subgrade itself, providing the base from which the water will be drawn upward and capillary extraction to the subballast. 4A cut pockets. 4A water pocket of the roadbed, sometimes in the considerable depth below the surface, must be drained, but the supporting bank shoulder must not be taken away from the bottom of the pocket located outlet, provided with a particular bad location. The elevation of the top imperious material under the center of the track should be determined by borings and lateral trenches provided with a low point. It may be necessary to provide a grade of the bottom of the trenches and the drain system of which the heavy wooden grid of the layer cinders. B. Pressure grouting is also an effective method of stabilizing the action. Pressure grouting forces with the water with the pocket, replace it with a quick setting mixture with resisting water absorption. The void is filled with the future accumulation of the water in the pocket and prevented with the 5. Maintain frequent cross drains, particularly where the bridges, road crossing sags interfere with the longitudinal drain. Alright, material handling of the care. 50. It is costly to move the material from place to place, handle with the care of the material from the hand, but for this reason, the amount of materials on hand for the number of the handlings should be kept to a minimum. The requirements carefully playing with the work and elimination as far as possible. Emergency non-programmed work close to the operation within stores department. Materials not used and deteriorated after the sack on hand are reduced to the minimum. Metal should be protected against the rust and spraying of the metal preservative oil. Reference 37209 rules. Rails, joint bars, ties, tie plates held in storage. Also, emergency rails at mileposts should be protected from the corrosion spraying of the metal preserved with oil. Reference 37209. 53. Threaded insulation parts should be kept in buildings out of weather, lumbered, piled as permanent, free of passage of air. Cross ties 101 A size 3A and 4 and 5 shall be used for the main track with main line important branches. Size 3 may be used in the main track with the branch lines. Light traffic and secondary tracks size 1 and 2 are suitable for the yards industrial track. Regional engineer shall determine the size to be used in any specific situation. Required interpretation of these instructions. The number of the ties which shall be considered the standard for each of the rail lengths shall be based on the following. 1 for main tracks with a 100-pound or heavier rail with over the 15 million gross pounds per year per mile per year, less tonnage where spreads over the 50 miles per hour, 33 foot 20 number ties to 39 foot 24 number ties. For the main tracks of a 100-pound heavier rail with 7 million or 1,500 million gross tons per year per mile, well, the train speeds are moderate, 18 ties at 33 feet and 20 ties at 39 feet. 3. For the main tracks with a 100-pound heavier rail with less than 7 million gross tons per mile per year for the sidings and industry side tracks, considerable traffic yard lengths except for the track is 16 ties for 33 feet and 18 ties for 39 feet. 4 for storage industrial side tracks, light traffic, 14 foot for the 14 ties for 33 foot, 16 foot for 39 foot. For the last 60 feet of the dead end tracks, 12 feet for a number of 33 foot rails. 6. In the case of all the track sharp curves, additional ties may be used if necessary to hold the gauge when rails other than standard length are used. The number of ties shall be proportional, reduce, and increase. Alright, placing. 102. Before using ties, it should be known that bear the standard acceptance brand of the inspector. Ties shall be placed with the wider hardwood part face down square with the line of the rail. In order to present the trimmer to appearance of the end of the standard length of the tie shall be brought to the uniform line with the rail as follows. A on single track line with the right hand end of the going north and west. On the 2 main track roads, line of the outside end of the ties. On 4 track roads, line the outside end of the tie for the outside of the track, inside end for the ties of the inside track. D on 3 to 4, 3, 5, and 6 track roads, line out the side end of the outside track lines. Let the line side of the end of the ties and inside tracks remain with the same each of the such track that they were additional outside tracks were constructed. E. Exemption must be made whether the in-use installation machinery advisable to change with the line of the side of the opposite of one end above the indicated. F. For the various rail section with corrective distance from the end of the tie edge of the base of the rail for the standard 8 foot 6 inches tie as follows: 85 PRR 19 inches, 100 PS point switch, 19 inches, 130 point switch or heavier, 18 and a quarter inch. When necessary, the use of the ties less than the standard length of the track laid with the standard ties, they shall be centered in the track. When building new tracks alongside of the present track, the end of the ties are not then in line with the conformity with above the rules. For replacement of the ties shall be laid in accordance with the rules, but it is not necessary to rely on old ties at the same time. 105. The best ties should be used with the joint. The ties should be spaced in uniform distance each center to center, disregarding the actual number of the ties in each of the half of the rail length of the track. See the various prescribed numbers of the ties per rail for the following space center of the center ties that shall apply. 24 ties per 39 foot rail, 19 and a half inches center to center, 22 inches ties per 39 foot rail, 21 and a quarter center to center, 20 ties per 39 foot rail, 33 and a half center to center, 18 ties per 39 foot rail, 26 inches center to center, 16 ties per 39 foot rail, 29 and a quarter center to center. 106. Ties shall be kept properly in space and squared in line with the rail. The ties shall be replaced whenever there is a variance with correcting space for 3 inches to the joint and 5 inches higher and immediate. Damage to the ties. When holding and spacing ties, garage mesh should be taken not to damage when the picks of the hammers, the tie tongs, lying bars, other suitable tool should be used. When necessary, advised treated ties. The cutting surface must be immediately slushed with the penochloroethanol and oil reference of 47.137.5. Only sufficient adzing to obtain a sound of the true bearing of the tie plate shall be done. Standard tie plugs must be used with the plug holes when spacing has been drawn. Switch ties. 11.1. For number required size length for the appendix 1 for interlocking switches, the plan S195. Bridge ties. 112. Open the floor bridges oak and pine ties should be used as follows. 9 million tons or more, tangent oak and curves oak, and less than 9,000 tons, tangent curve less than 3 degrees, oak and pine curves more degrees or more 3 degrees or more oak. Pre-boring. 9/16 of an inch hole shall be bored and treated within the penty and oil reference of 471375 before driving any of the tracks by into bridge ties. Suitable holes must be also bored for the tracks for spikes which are fastened ties and spacing bars. Tie plates. Assignment 201. The tie plate should be used under the running rails of all cross ties, switch ties, and bridge ties. Placing. 202. Care must be taken with the outside shoulder of the plate while full bearing against the base of the rail. 203. A. The type of the proof of the chief engineer shall be used between the tie plate and the tie. All new ties, open deck bridges, except under the very light traffic in any direction of the regional engineer, that they may also be used in tunnels. B. The ties shall be also not doubled or otherwise used in lieu of shims and correcting either irregular surface. Rails distribution 301. So far, the practical rails shall be distributed in proper position, laying without further handling. When being unloaded, the work must be done with the assistance of suitable devices preventing injury to the rails. Rails must be placed base down, parallel with the track, and with sufficient bearing to avoid bending in the swing. In station grounds that have not been to be laid immediately, rails should be uploaded with the piles and far enough back to the well out of the way of the train and in convention with the place of the redistribution before laying. When the rails are distributed along with the track so that there may be danger of trainmen falling over them, and telegraph the report stating that the location should be made as superintendent ordered the trainmen may be warned. Preparation of laying. Prior to the rail renewal, the track shall be placed on the good surface of the line. In special case, with the considerable desirable procure of the roller bender shall be used. Particular care must be taken to ensure the uniform curvature throughout the length. Rails may have then damage to have sharp ends and must be laid in the main track with damage. With the bent rails must be straightened, may be used in yards and side tracks. Bolts and springs and washers, side plugs, tie plates, rail anchors, etc. must be distributed as nearly possible whenever they will be used, but they should not be unloaded much in advance of the laying. The rail with the care should be taken to keep them from getting buried or lost. They must be not placed on the top of the ties nor in the cribs. Laying. Under no condition shall more of the rail be laid in one of the day that they can be rightly taken care of during the day within the which it is laid, so that no damage of the rail and the fastening would result in continued use of normal traffic. Loose ties must be tamped up to the good bearing under the new rail. Standard for the spiking bolting must be followed with the rail anchors must be applied before the trains are permitted to pass over. The following follow-up attention must be given to the track to prevent damage for the rail. As insulating fibers as are easily damaged and immediately action must be taken to have the insulating joints properly spiked and supported. Favorable bushings will not be withstand severe blows of the bolt heads. 312. Rails shall be laid one at a time to ensure the good adjustment of the rail ends should be brought with squarely together and against the suitable rail expansion shims and bolted. Prefer spiking under special conditions. Certain departments under the departments from the plane are permissible as follows. The location where the train cannot divert other tracks during the work of the laying of the rails. Stretching of the rails not over 1,000 feet in length may be bolted together on one side of the track, then line it into place with such a care that was ensure the proper length of the expansion being maintained between the end of the avoidance for the unequal adjustment. 313. Rail expansion shimmy the softwood not over 1 inch of the width of the prescribed thickness plan 69573 dash in parentheses shall be placed between the ends of the adjacent rails in order to assure that the space of the allowance of expansion required by the rail temperatures foul table that may be left in place. A. The expansion allowable table below 10 degrees 1/4 inch at 33 foot and 5/16 inch at 39 foot. After I read the degree, it will be 33 foot and then 39 foot. 10 degree 29 foot. 10 degree 29 degree 5/16 of an inch with 1/4 inch. 30 degree to 48 degrees 5/16 of an inch to 3/16 of an inch to 5/16 of an inch. 5/16 of an inch, 49 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, 1/8 of an inch, and 1/8 of an inch, 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 1/16 of an inch, 1/16 inch, over 86 degree, none to none. With specification over 86 degree, rails shall be laid without expansion allowance. Their space between the rail ends and insulation joints should only be sufficient to permit the insertion standard end posts. 314. The standard rail thermometer shall be, for certain the temperature of the rail. The thermometer should be laid with the close of the web of the side of the base of the rail, with shade with the sun rays and advance with the length of the left and the long, enough to record the temperature accurately. Foremen in charge shall have these shall see that the temperature is checked frequently and proper rail examination shims are used. All thermometers must be checked with a supervisor to see that they are accurate. Rails should be laid so that the joints on one line rail shall be opposite with the mid rail and the other line. Permissible variations as follows: exemptions through the tunnels and staggering over the joints on one side must be buried more than 30 inches in either direction from the center of the opposite rail, preferably not exceeding 18 inches. Rails less than 18 feet long shall not be used in the main tracks, except for the short rails no less than 14 feet long may be used. Temporary closure connection within turnouts connection with the rail, the different weights and the types of temporarily. While laying the rails should not be placed in the roads crossing with the limits and switch rails, the opposite frog guard rails within 6 feet of the end of the open floor bridge trestle, or within 12 feet of the edge of the road crossing rail 78 foot or longer will be provided with such a location when practical. Rails of the same section should be used with the road crossing, switch connection, station, platforms, open floor, bridge, trestle, viaducts in order to avoid compromised joints. Rails are unequal wear of the different sections must be brought down to an even surface gauge limit gauge joints and necessary of the difference for the height of the rail must be run off by the use of wooden and metal shims ample for the length of the permit. These beginning securely fastened with the ties, and wooden shims are used. The round holes must be provided within them. The spikes, the use of the shims not looks between web of the rail joint bars are prohibited. The adjustment must be accomplished by compromising joints approved with the design. Compromising joints will be forged in cast steel, but the cast steel joints will not be used in main tracks without permission of the chief engineer. B. The grinding and approved method of welding using a silicone torch to adjust the dimension of the compromising joints. Manufacture compromising joints with standard bars, burn holes in the joint bars prohibited to the main track. The other important track with the track adjacent thereto. Joint bars are here heat treated with the carbon steel and are easily damaged in application of flame. 320. When necessary to make the temporary connection with the passage of the terrain, the union must be in a piece of the old rail not less than 14 feet long, connected with the new rail compromising joint with the full number of the bolts and spikes. When the work of the day is completed with the passage of the train at the authorized speed, with the full length of the old rail shall be continuous with the new rail. B. The section of the use of switch rails and temporarily the connection with the length of the rail is prohibited. 321. Holes for the complete bolting must be provided at the end of the cut rails in accordance with the standard arrangement of the following practice. When new holes are necessary, they must be drilled, not punched or slotted or burned with a torch. They must be under no circumstances be placed between the two holes already drilled with the rail. The distance from the end of the rail into the center of the first bolt must not be less than twice the diameter of the hole. The distance between the center of any two holes of the same size must not be less than 4 times the diameter of the hole. In the case of the hole difference of size, not less than 3 and 3/4 times of the average diameter of the two holes. The connection between the rail ends must be made with a fully bolted jointed bar. The tools from which may be used for the cutting new and partially worn rails may be named below. Rail saw, track, chisel, gas cutting torches according to the letter of the general practice number 84-4 parentheses for siding for the side of the track yard only when necessary to make the square and smooth guide shall be used. When using the track chisel, a sledgehammer that is not available to 8 pounds shall be used. The use of spiking hammer is prohibited, except for the welding engine burns according with the letter of the general practice number 329 parentheses and except for the application welded bonds, gas and arc welding brazing prohibited. Any portion of the rail except for the top surface no farther than 8 inches from the end of the rail to set the letters of the general practice number 216 319 and specification CE 49. Gas cutting touch torches must never be used the rail except for this covered in paragraph 322A3. Any rail in main track other than important track adjacent to the track accidentally damaged by the torch must be promptly removed from the track. Alright, track circuits rail bound. Where the rails are bounded with the track circuit with no rail bound shall be broken the rails removed with acceptance and safe emergency unless the signal maintainer is present to ensure the signal display that the most restrictive indication for the cap signal of the train control territory of the code of the track circuit within the operative of its facility to bound the new rails available. In case of emergency, the broken rail switch in the fog may be renewed without waiting for the signal maintainer. In such the case, the joint bars shall be tightened to make the good contact possible with the rails. Single maintainer notified with the rail bonds have been broken. However, this is such work, and within starting the circuit, the automatic highway crossing protection, the track shall not be restored with the serve until all trains approaching for the crossing have been instructed to prepare with the stop prior to the passing over the crossing involved until the crossing protection is provided. in electrical traction territory before the disconnection will leave the impedance of the bomb, removing the rail frogs and etc. Care that also should be exercised to increase at least one return path of the traction current that is maintained when the making of the renewal of rail renewals, etc. Before the rail is connected to the return path of the traction current, was also provided with using temporary bond plan E413610 parentheses all across the track, each with the side of the rail section removed and section removed. Make sure that the non-insulation rail joints interfere with the crossing bond circuits. In emergency with the signal maintainer not being present, they shall not be notified that the rail bonds have been broken. Care of materials released. When removing the rail from the track, the bolts and nuts and the rail anchors must not be damaged. Rail anchors 401. The number of the anchors required for the given location can be fixed by an experienced judgment of the use of the insufficient anchors result in the destruction of the track surface, waste of the labor, and evidence for the rail joint and the anchor tie that are moving progressively under the track should result with the application of the additional anchor. The extra gravity use of the excessive number of anchors must be avoided. Additional rail anchors, if necessary, shall be applied with the approach of leaving rails to the main track crossing for the turnouts to track through troughs to railroad crossing frogs to open floor bridges. Rail anchors should not be used upon open floor bridges, trestles, or viaducts except when authorized by the chief engineer. Application 402. The rail anchor device shall be applied with the rail anchor shall be applied with the first tie next to the joint of the tie of the remaining anchors of evenly spaced in the rail length as practical allows the both ends for the same of the tie when the length of the rail anchors must be applied before the train is permitted to pass over the rail. Applying the rail anchors are sound ties whether the anchoring both directions required with the reverse anchor should be applied with the ties already having anchors in normal direction. In other words, the practice of a boxing with the ties shall be followed. On single track or other track used in both directions, sufficient anchors shall be applied with the avoid backward and forward motion of the box ties. An anchor of 78 feet rail, the other rail is longer than 39 feet. Additional anchors are required because of the relative reduction expansion per foot of the track. Minimum of 24 anchors per 78 feet of the rail in direction of the normal traffic. 1/4 of the anchor ties the box with the reverse anchor is required in order to restrain the tendency of such track to gain expansion. Maintenance 403. The rail anchors were applied must have the bearing against the tie and the tie plate in order to avoid damage to the rail anchors. Only the proper tool should be used for the applying and the removing. Whenever the bearing of the rail anchors against the distributed when removing the tie, replacing the ties with the rail and rail anchors must be taken off and reapplied. Ballast and ice must be kept away from the rail anchors to avoid loosening of the anchor of the rail contracts as well as interference with the electrical track circuit. The proper operation of the rail ends with the joint must be provided with maintained by the use of the adequate rail anchors when the rail ends are open with the excessive expansion allowing of prescribed the paragraph 313A of the rails should be driven back against the shim. Proper thickness is provided with the required special allowance of the expansion necessity of the rails over the suitable length inserted with the adequate number of the rail anchors applied to hold the rails against the further running in either direction. Rail joints, number 501. Rail joint bars shall be applied with that their full number of the bolts and nuts and spring washers in accordance with the standard plan and specification. Before applying joints into the lane new the fit rail with the general maintenance of the rail ends shall be protected against the corrosion flow follows. The location subject for the excessive corrosion, heavy coal traffic, the refrigerator track with the atmospheric and heavy the industrial atmosphere tunnel with the vicinity of the water of the plans, river views, river valleys, whether this is frequent fog with whenever the laying of the rail when renewing and replacing joint bar of the web base and finishing the surface of the rail with the joint bar low limits of the rail ends with the bolt hole inside the surface of the joint bars. Finishing of the surface of the joint bars with the bolts must be coated with the film not less than 1/32 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch approved grease with the rail end with the protection reference 37333. All other location rail ends of the joint bar and the bolts shall be similarly protected by using approved grease and rail end protection reference 37228. Mechanical means of applying with the grease are not available to apply with the hand to ensure the good boil bond of the grease of the metal surfaces shall be applied with the vigorous scrubbing motion rather than a painting motion with the number 00 roofing brushing, stubby painting brush and the grease of the heavy consistency with the brush due to low temperature that should be thin to 150 degree carbon oil reference to 3746, but caution should be used to not dilute the grease beyond the paste with consistency. In any case, there must be taken with the coat of the upper fillet for the extreme rail ends. The location where the experience has shown with the rapid corrosion, rail ends protective coating shall be renewed in intervals not more than 4 years. Inspection rail ends with the web defects shall be made at regular intervals using Audi gauge of flawed detector described in letter of the general practice number 316. Maintenance 502A. The end of the new rails should be chamfered at the middle in accordance with Plan 71099. To avoid spalling with the chipping of the rail for the joint and under the surface becomes necessary, the end of the face of the bit must be cut with the grinding with a 1/8 of an inch from the wheel to the depth of the not less than 3/16 of an inch, so the top of the edge of the gauge side of the end of the face of the rail does not any of the time expanded with beyond the rail end of the face. In order to prevent injury from the rail end of the joint should be kept tightly bolted at all times. When applying subsequently tighten both the rail joints, bolt tension should be brought to 15,000 pounds. A newly laid rail should be tightened at least 4 times during the first month, and at the time laid again the next day, again at the end of the week, and again 1 month after it's laid. As the surface progresses, reduce the tension in the track bolt must be retightened periodically at intervals about 1 year. If the bolt treads are dry and corrosion is present before proceeding with the tightening, liberal application should be made with a mixture of approved grease for the rail and protection reference 37228 and with 150-degree oil, carbon oil reference 3746 for the described in paragraph 502I, and other suitable available penetration lubrication. H for procedure adjusting power track wrenches specified by the bolt tension and the manual instruction maintenance of the way equipment for MW52 section 850. All track bolt and main tracks shall be oiled once in the year, applying with the lug spout with the engine's oil can with a mixture of the approved grease for the rail of the end of the protection reference 37228 and 150-degree oil or carbon oil reference 3746 with the ratio of 25 pounds of the grease to 2.5 gallons of oil. The mixture must be stirred until it reaches uniform consistency with the thick cream. Under cold weather, the conditions may be necessary to add additional 150-degree carbon oil. J. To prevent undue stress with the rail due to the contracting expansion change with the season, sudden and wide change with the temperature, sufficient bolts and joint bars shall be loosened to permit the rails to adjust themselves, which bolts should be immediately retightened during the hot weather. Spacing with the rail end must be closely watched, and when necessary, the rail is driven back with a piece of the rail of the cut to avoid sun kinks and buckling of the tracks. Where of the fishing space of the rail and joint shall be compensated with the application reform, but the joint bars, rail, and the main track shall be maintained as near the original condition as possible, either the recondition, removing of the crop in accordance with the letter of the General Practice number 216. Alright, insulating joints. Track circuit territory. In the track circuit territory, insulating track joints shall be located as follows. A1, the main track, whether the track circuits adjoining the insulating joints shall be staggered not more than 56 inches, not less than 32 inches. The insulating joints must be staggered 1/3, half the rail length, not more than 20 feet at the cut section starting point of the highway crossing signals. Highway crossing signal location provided with such location are not within interlocking limits, not fixed signals, fixed signals not in electrical territory, or not in the cable signal territory, and not where the 3-1 current is likely to prevalent. To provide effectively with electrical switch locking insulation joints with staggered with the prescribed in paragraph 503A shall be located with the opposite side of the dwarf signal nearly as may be other signals with the joint staggered with the prescribed in paragraph 503A shall be placed not less than 8 feet, no more than 15 feet in advance, 13 feet in advance for the signal. Exemption of the location with the opposite opposing high signal provided with the core and over the bridge for the traffic to either direction whenever the shall be located as nearly possible midway between the two opposing signals. The staggered is prescribed in paragraph 503A. Insulating joints needed not to be specified, especially staggered at the end of the track and circuit where there is no adjoining the track circuit. Insulating joints and crossover turnouts should be located in accordance with the standard signal plan S083. 504. Insulating joint boards must be not applied with the rails and battered and roughly cut out of the ends so that they will damage the fiber. With the edge of the rail joints will come into contact with the fiber points of the joint, i.e. under the rail head and web top at the bottom of the rail base must be rounded with approximately 1/8 of an inch radius. The grinding and the filling of the rail reduce the tendency of the cutting of the fiber parts. The rail must be spaced so that the end will be firmly against the fiber end of the post, thus avoiding damage to the bolts and fiber bushings. To open between the rail end of the two small, do not force the end of the bar with a track chisel. The wedge and may damage the rail end. To leave the rough edge of the width will destroy the fiber parts. The fiber end of the must be not project method beyond the rail head limitations. 506. Ties must be spaced under insulation joints to meet the standard requirements of giving uniform support to the joints. Parkway outlets, boot legs must be moved into must be moved if they interfere with arranging the tie accordingly. 507. 507 abrasions must be placed under the insulation joints in continuous type with except the joints located where the traffic is infrequent. Surface of the tie must be avoided as inserted to provide full bearing under the joint to keep the rails in line surface. 508. Care of the application, maintenance of the insulation joints necessary to obtain the satisfactory surface. 509. Before insulating joints are assembled, the parts of the rails covered with the insulating joints must be thoroughly cleaned to be removed all the rust and scale of the dirt under the rail head from the web and the top of the bottom with the rail base. All metal parts of the joint must be thoroughly cleaned with the tall surface of the fiber head being a base piece of the adjoining inside of the surface of the rail joint and bars give a liberal and thorough coating with improved rust preventive care must be exercised not to damage the joint bars, bolts, or fiber parts. Note that the approved rust preventive is carried under the preference of 3725 with the grease temporary rust preventive is approved with light colored furnished 25 pound, 35 pound pails. 510. If the joint with the continuous IE with the base supported the type of the first applied with the fiber paste with the and the metal joint bars to each of the side of the rail. In this case, the Weber joint with the metal shoe with the angle with the wood fillers, fiber with the wood metal washer to drive them on the rail with the wedge sledgehammer with the striking on the lower edge of the bars until the just room with enough along left to insert the fiber head pieces. After the fiber head pieces are in place, for the insert the fiber bushing in the bolt hole with applying the fiber washer plates and metal washer plates with the bolts and nuts. Before placing the bolts in the joint. In the joints, they should be dipped in improved grease, thoroughly coating with the entire length of the bolt, except head is prescribed in paragraph 501b2. 511. The joint bars shall be drawn within position, alternately driving the sledge with the hammer along with the base of the bar, with the tighten the nuts by the hand with the wrenches, beginning with the two center bolts and progressively at the end of the ball bolts, proceeding with the same manner with the other joint bar. The procedure must be followed with the void cocking of the bars. Never drive the head of the bars; they will draw into the place with under the bolt pressure bolt in the insulating joint, but must be kept sufficiently at all times to prevent the movement of the rail and joint. 512. All bolts should never be driven through the fiber bushing, and it will destroy the bushing. And if the rails and joint bars are corrected that relatively position, the bolt holes lined up, the bolts can easily be inserted by hand. 513. Insulating joints within electrified territory. Those in locations subject to the true trouble due rail cutting shall have the space for the end of the joint between the web of the rail and the joint filled with car cement. The surfaces that may be smoothed out with the trowel or glazing knife. Note that the approved car cement is approved under the reference 47556. Compound asphalt improved the filling cracks in boxcars, troweling, knifing, painting passenger cars and roofs and railing, insulating joints. Alright, care of the joint. Insulating joints require the frequent and careful attention when not in use. With all joints must be kept dry and clean with rusted weather. The fiber given the poor result. The nuts should be taken the next day after the joint is applied again with once against a week of the several weeks until the parts of the become firmly set. Same time using the sledge or the hammer to tap the bars and bolt heads. Insulating joints must be supported equally on the sound with the smooth ties with tamped and well drained with a clean ballast at all times in order to prevent pumping and churning of excessive fiber wear. Spiking. Number required. 601. The rail must be fastened to every tie with the number of spikes specified with the standard except with the otherwise authorized with the chief engineer standard are on tangents using two rail holding spikes, one inside, one outside for the fastening each rail and each side of the tie. On curve of 3 degrees over the where the traffic is 15 million gross tons per year or over the 3-year rail holding spikes two inside, one outside of the fastening each for the rail on each of the tie. On curve less than 3 degrees regardless of the track of the or on curve of 3 degrees or over where the traffic is less than 5 million gross tons used for the same spiking as prescribed in the 4 tangent exemption, where in the judgment the supervised additional rail holding spike is necessary should be applied only on the inside of the curve. On the curve and tangent for the purpose of holding the tie in place and firmly on the tie, the two-plate holding spikes that shall be used each for the plate in addition with the rail holding spike. Spiking shall be in accordance with the standard plan 72050 appendix 14. Plate holding spaces shall be driven with the head of the pointed of the rail. Application 602. Spikes must be started vertically and square with the driving straight with the shank of the rail head and bolt. Rail holding spike must be having the full bearing against the base of the rail. The last few of the bolts should be driven lightly so that the spike head will not be damaged. Spikes must be kept with the driving home. Should be kept driven home for the being careful not overdrive the full-throated spikes. Care must be taken not to strike the rail and in fastening the signal appliance with the driving spikes. The spikes in the main track were in badly throat cut with the road rusted must be properly replaced. If the place of the broken spike or the driven through the bottom of the tie, but not clearly into of it, and leakage of the track circuit current may be taken place. Action of the guard against it should be taken as follows. The new spike should be preferably relocated with the stub left undistributed. Or stub should be driven through and clear with the bottom of the tie. 606. All old spikes should be collected and sorted for the further reclamation of the scrapping. Or your ballast using 701. Ballast is used to obtain uniform bearing of the tires, resistance against the lateral movement of the track, and maintain uniform tire spacing. Distribution of the weight of the transmissions of the tires other than over the maximum area of the roadbed. Rapid effective drainage to provide proper roadbed connection. In addition to the increase in the life of the tires, reduction in vibration of the tires, thereby preventing losing and tampering. Hindrance as far as possible for the freezing of the roadbed. Specifications 702. The ballast should conform with the standard specification if the ballast interfere with the quality and the quantity of the screen of the dirt and other foreign material that's delivered. Attention of the railroad engineer, regional engineer shall be directed toward the in order to bring about improvement of manufacturer. 703. The track plan with the floor filling with between the track for the large ballast with the standard may be used with the bolt. The course stone must be kept away from the end of the tires where new tracks are constructed with the saw ballast approved, the material shall be used with the shown with the standing of the standard plane with the track ballast with the gravel and cinders are also being raised and reballast for the stone and slag with the old ballast cindered with the clean of the suitable shall be used in sub ballast. 705. Distribution. Before the ballast is distributed, the subgrade shall be properly prepared and widening of the cut and fills with the constructing ditches in accordance with the standard plan, but being careful not to form the water pockets. 706. Newly distributed ballast should be removed properly after the distribution from the inside of the rail down to 1/2 inch below the top of the tires outside of the levee down so that to provide the ample clearance for the rolling stock. However, the track will be raised in a few days. It will be sufficient to provide ample flangeway along each of the rail. Filling the cross-section. Clean will be compact with ballast must be placed around the edge of the tires not less than 2/3 of the height of the tire as soon as the work of the necessity of the removal is completed to prevent deterioration and loosening of the tampon. The resulting center-bound track before the ballasting can be trimmed in the sand for the cross-section, and trimming with the standard cross-section ballast shall be leveled, lined, and faced with the mechanical means to the greatest extent possible, leaving the minimum to be done by the hand labor. 708. Without speed restriction having been provided with the track should be not lifted so that the height of the strip such for the depth that result in more than 1/2 of the thickness of the tie extending above the level of the ballast. As soon as practical after the track has been lifted, the ballast shall be filled between the ties as shown in the standard plan. See paragraph 902 A and H. This ballast must be kept in the touching rail with the space of at least 1 inch between the ballast and the base of the rail being mentioned. Maintain. Economy is promoted by the making renewals of the rails and ties and ballasts correct sequence of the same year. Cleaning. When stone ballast becomes so filled with the cinders and dirt that other substances that the drainage is impaired that it does not practically perform the functions, it must be cleaned. When practicable, ballast shall be cleaned with the approved mechanical device with impedance to the bottom but mounted with the movable foundation. They should be shifted clear of the 7 foot where they will not be damaged with the mechanical devices. Returned for the former location from the ballast cleaning completed. 712. All track races shall be made on a clean ballast. 713. Dirt clean from the ballast must be under no condition left in piles along the track or in ditches or be thrown upon slopes of the cuts. The following general rules should be governed the cleaning of the ballast. Alright, stone and slag ballast. Clean the center space between the track and the depth of the 18 inches or more below the bottom of the ties. Cleaning outside of the shoulder with the depth of not less than 12 inches below the bottom of the ties and where practicable with the bottom of the ballast. Cleaning construction cross drainage that may be needed with sufficient depth to ensure the grid drainage with the void locating the joints. See paragraph 5. B. Gravel bags. Skeletized for the track, stripping with the vibration with the track on the old ballast, provided the touch of the ballast is suitable quality so that no old ballast is above the bottom of the ties. Remove the plane over the bottom of the ties, old material with the space between the track and the outside shoulder, cleaning the construct, and then cross drain with the intervals and depth insufficient to cross the good drain to avoid the locating of them at the joints. Distribute the sufficient ballast to provide them to lift the desired dressing of the track. The standard lift of the track out of face and dressing in accordance with the standard plan. 715. The extreme care must be exercised with the cleaning of the ballast during the very hot weather. The lack of the support of the ballast when tracked is skeletonized by the result of the sun kinks. See paragraph 902 H. Section skeletonized track. The weakened and distributed ballast must be restored to normal conditions as properly as possible. Alright, gauge. Standard 801. Standard gauge of the track shall be in the tangent of 4 foot 8 1/4 inches, except with the turnouts and ridges crossing, movable point crossing, and slip crossing. Curves up to adding the 10 degrees 4 foot 8 1/2 inches over 10 degrees 4 foot 9 inches. Turnouts. Main track of the run 4 foot 8 1/2 inches from the point of the switch for the heel frog. The turn with the tangent From turnout run of the tangent number 10 and number 30 to number 10 to number 30 inclusively 4 foot 8.5 inches, less than number 10 into 4 foot 9 inches except through the guardrail of the gauge shall be 4 foot 8.5 inches. The turn of the run of the curve of the track of the accordance with the degree of the turnout curve is prescribed in paragraph B of the above. The D of the rigid movable point slip crossing and authorized with the chief engineer. Note the segment of the guardrail opposing frog shall be in accordance with the standard plan 71800 appendix 12. 802 and a change of the gauge with the 4 foot 8.25 inches to 4 foot 8.5 inches shall be made with not less than 30 feet. Gauges shall be changed with a suitable adjustment of the rail opposite of the line of the rail. Maintenance provided with the gauge is uniform. Correction needed not to be made until the excess of the maintained with 3/16 of an inch of the tangent main track with 1/2 inch of the tangent side track, 1/2 inch of the curves where the rails are securely fastened to the ties in correct alignment and variation causing tight gauge with the permitted. The standard track gauge must always be used and maintain the correct gauge with all the track gauges must be tested in the standard template with the frequent intervals. Alright, track construction and maintenance, speed limit signs.